Hey everybody, welcome to the Serial Killers. We are 5 writers who are spending 2022 learning how to write and publish serialized fiction. I'm Shaunta Grimes. I am the owner of Ninja Writers, which is the best online writing community on the planet. And my partners in crime are Adrienne Grimes, Lee Carter, Zach Payne, and Terry Demmons. So we are going to spend a few minutes talking about where we are in our process. And then Lee is in the hot seat this week. So she's going to share some of her work, and I'm going to live edit it for her. And it's going to be a lot of fun. Hi, guys.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello, everybody. So we were, this week, our big thing that we did, I think as a group, was everybody got their Substacks set up, which is where we're going to be sharing our stories. And we were just talking before we started recording that. I was like, wait, let's wait and talk about it for everyone, about what exactly we're going to share on there. Are these going to be Substacks just for our stories, or like personal Substacks where we're going to share other stuff? And I know Adrienne is definitely making hers a personal Substack where she'll share her book, but also other like writing and other, I don't know, passions, right? Because she's got a real passion for art history. Adrienne, I think you're going to share some of that there.
Yeah, I think I have had this idea for, I have this collection of I guess little like drabbles of writings about they start off with like an artist quote and then go into like a little bit about, something about the artist or a work or whatever, and it's got some creative nonfiction tied into it, like, how do we, I don't know, how art affects the way that we see the world, and some personal stuff as well and things like that. And I don't know, I want to do something with it, and I thought maybe I would publish it into a collection, which I still probably will do at some point, but that I don't know, I think maybe I could, for now, as I'm like, I have to go through and beef up those posts if I want to do anything with them, and I think I can do that on Substack. So right now they're on Medium as like really short posts,
Right.
And so I think, and I just, in general, I think
So do you want to share your experience posting your first post yesterday?
I posted, it was like just when you set up a Substack, I don't know if it asks you, but, or if I had my Substack set up, like I set one up in like November, and then I didn't do anything with it. Like I just kind of set it up, and it was originally just going to be just for Birdie. But and so I can't remember if it asked me to make this post or if I just did, but I made like a welcome post. And so I just went in and changed it, right? Deleted that one and made a new one with
it just like coming soon. That's their default.
Yeah. So okay. So then it was the default one, and I just went in. I made a new post like that, like a welcome post, and just shared what this space is and like what kind of content you can get, a little bit about me, and my Birdie, my story that I'll be publishing, and and the little mention of the Serial Killers crew, and I don't know, I put that up, set that all up last night, and I woke up this morning and I had 61 views.
That's so cool.
I never shared it or
really
anything.
cool.
So to me, that tells me that there's readers that are using Substack, like Medium or whatever, and maybe even more engaged readers, because when I publish something on Medium and I don't share it anywhere, like I just publish it, it gets maybe 20 views.
Yeah.
So that was
well, I posted my welcome one this morning after hearing that from Adrienne. So we will see if it has anybody else like actually posted something in their Substack, or is it just that default one?
I switched up the coming soon just to say what was coming, what this was going to be, that was going to be Paranormal Times. I called it Paranormal Times, a novel in pieces. And
But
I've
you
gotten
didn't post a new one. You just updated the one that was the default.
That's what I did too.
It says it gives you that option. So that's what I did. I just updated that one. But I already have a follower.
Yay.
I had like 14 views and a follower. So
that's good. That's interesting.
I think Adrian does super well. Terry, what did you name yours?
Paranormal Times by T.L. Demons. I just thought I'd go with the book.
Real knack with choosing. She doesn't think she does, and she's about to argue with me. But she has a real knack for changing or choosing names for projects. Maybe not. I don't know about books because you haven't done enough. But she called her Instagram, her Bookstagram. She called the Book a Week Project, which is just like. It's so simple, and anyone who wants to, it says exactly what it is. And then she called this one The Far Away Nearby, right?
Yeah. Well, and I think what I have realized a lot is that, and I think I tend to too. I'm somebody who sees I don't know, I get inspired by things that already exist or stories or, so I don't feel like if I try too hard, what stresses me out, and the reason why I don't think that I'm good at coming up with titles and things is because I'm not good at coming up with really original titles. But I think that that's a good thing. I think that if you come up with a really original title,
who's going to find
an audience? People don't know what you're writing about. And I think, I don't know. I was a little unsure about choosing The Far Away Nearby because it is a very popular, creative nonfiction book by Rebecca Solnit, but she stole it because it was and she talks about why she used it in the book, and it's Georgia O'Keeffe. That's how she used to sign off her letters, was from The Far Away Nearby. And so I added the from The Far Away Nearby, so it wasn't exactly like Rebecca Solnit's book, which is just The Far Away Nearby. Right. But I kind of liked that idea that all of my posts are from The Far Away Nearby. But I think that's I mean, if I come up with good titles or whatever, I think it's because I try not to be too not to stress about being, if I'm original enough or
I decided to name mine Just See What Happens, which is the end of my favorite Ray Bradbury quote, which is just write every day of your life, read intensely, then see what happens. So, oh man, I think I called it Just See What Happens, and I need to change it to Then See What Happens. But regardless, I think that's what I'm going to call mine. And I was thinking, so what are you guys going to share in yours? Is anybody? I know Adrian's going to share art history stuff and stuff that's not really a great fit for ninja writers. And I was thinking
reader stuff too, reading what book I'm reading this week.
Yeah. And I thought I might do that too, but also I don't talk about my own fiction writing very much in Ninja Writers. It does not a fantastic fit usually because it's I'm so focused on everybody else's fiction that it feels weird. I'll announce when I have a new book, but I don't talk a lot about what am I working on for my own fiction projects or whatever. So I'm going to share The Undergrounders, and then I'm also going to share just maybe occasional posts about what I'm working on. I've got this real intense and editorial plan for this coming year, and I thought I might do monthly posts of how I'm doing on that. And then I just have a real passion for analog planning, paper planning and systems, and paper crafting and book binding. And I thought I could share that stuff that I sometimes share in Ninja Writers, but it's just not a great fit there. And this would be a nice little home for that. So
it would be a good fit. Your curation project.
It would. I have a weird curation. Yeah, it's just stuff
because when I was writing about what mine is, I put, curating my life. And then I was thinking, well, you can totally write about your curation project here.
Yeah. What about you, Terry? What are you going to share in yours? Are you planning on sharing the your book, or do you think you'll share other stuff?
No, I think I want to share other stuff. And I think that I need to go back and I need to rename mine because it's going to be more than just paranormal times. So I was just trying to get things started. And now
Yeah.
listening to you guys, I'm like, I should go back and do something better than that because I want to share about my process about writing. Organization is a killer for me. I am ADHD and it affects me when I get overwhelmed. Like right now.
Functioning.
I'm sorry.
It's executive functioning. I have the same
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah. So, and now all of a sudden I have this life and it's like the life of my dreams. I've got this great gig as a dog trainer. I'm building a business from the ground up and I've got this writing project that I'm just excited about. And I find a lot of the times my mind just shuts down. So I want to share about how I go about fixing that problem with organization. And I also want to talk about dogs. I want to talk because Bruce is going to be a big part of this book, and I want to share him so people can see where my inspiration is coming from. And I also want to
do weekly Bruce updates.
I could do that.
I totally would subscribe to that. I'm just saying.
I got to hear the part of Perry's book that has a giant bull mastiff, and his name is Marshmallow, and I was like, oh my god, I recognize Bruce.
Yeah. So we do. That's what I call him. I call him the Marshmallow. And so I want people to be engaged with me and my writing, not just read the story, but actually see me. And I also want to talk about ghost hunting because that's another passion of mine. And I want to give people like insider tips and, this is what this is. And this happened once and, just fun things.
Yes.
What you should do for your name is think about I don't know. I think what I and maybe this helps with my names as well when I come up with them, but I'm a very visual person. And so when I start a project, I have a very clear idea of the aesthetic that I want it to have. Right. So if you could think of I don't know, there's a ghostly aesthetic, what name can you tie in with that? But also the ADHD thing is interesting. You could just be the ADHD writer. Yeah. But then if you talk about that, kind of narrows you in a little bit.
Yeah. I want people.
You could just call it Squirrel Brain. I'd subscribe.
I love that. I'm going to write that down.
That's
that's why dogs love me so much.
You should call it the Trixie Wood.
Oh.
That's where you live. I don't know. Terry's lives in the Trixie Wood, and you don't have to. I don't think anybody who it would be an insider thing for the people who know you. But it's such an interesting name.
You know what you can do though? I like what I plan to do. This is how I plan to set mine because I am gonna have I'm talking about a wide variety of things on my Substack. So my overall Substack is the far away nearby, and it will just capture everything, right? It's just for me as the main topic. But you can have newsletters within your newsletter, right? You can set up Squirrel Brain, and which actually is growing. I think that's actually a really good name. I kind of like it, and I think people would subscribe to that. That's kind of quirky. But then you can set up another newsletter within your newsletter, and people can, you can set up a payment plan just for that newsletter, right? That's your story. That's Paranormal Times. And then one that's Bruce-tastic or you know what I mean? You can.
Yeah, but do you really want people to have to pay you for each individual newsletter? Or will you have
I think that I don't know. I'm not sure. Yeah, I mean you might have some of it if it's more specific, I probably would just do it for.
Well, I think I'm just going. Yeah, it might be interesting to have a paid one for your story. Although I think I'm not going to do that because I think I'm just going to have a pay. This will be if you want, if you pay. I don't know. Actually, I haven't decided yet how I want to do it, but I know I don't want to have to start a new Substack for every serial project because I was thinking about this week, and I have two books in a series that have been published along. They were published in 2013 and 14. So it's been, oh my God, 10 years almost. But that's Viral Nation and Rebel Nation. And the publisher didn't pick up the third book. So I was thinking that if this year I can figure out the serialized fiction thing, next year I might be able to serialize Viral Nation's world and like finish that story finally, so I can feel good about, because I never even feel good about telling people like, hey, I wrote these books, because it's a not finished. There's a big old cliffhanger at the end of the second book and it doesn't come back, and it makes me feel terrible. So I thought, like, I'm not ready to do that yet because I don't feel like I have a good handle on serializing, but if I can figure it out this year, then that could be my project next year. And I don't want to have to start all over again with a new Substack and get people to join and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Is it true that with your Substack newsletter, you can make certain posts free and then others are under the pay window?
Yes.
Just like on
Okay.
Medium.
Yeah.
You can share an
would be
excerpt.
super
Like excerpt
yeah.
shows up to people who are not paid, so they can read like a few paragraphs or whatever of your story, and then decide to subscribe if they want to finish reading it. And you can send like to everybody, hey, I published an episode of Paranormal Times or the Undergrounders or whatever, and they will get an excerpt and then an invitation to join.
Okay. Do you think that it would be worth it to have the first couple of episodes of your story free and then say, okay, if you want to keep reading, or is that kind of mean?
No, I think definitely, because I think it's, you know, like, you gotta hook them in, right? Like, I don't know that anybody's gonna just
Yeah, I might just do my first episode for free.
Yeah.
And then like send out but one reason why I'm waiting until the problem there's not good navigation. That's where I was going at. So one thing about maybe waiting, like why I'm going to wait till the end of February to publish my first Undergrounders, is so that hopefully I can get some people following me before I publish the book.
Well, if you create, like, if you do like newsletters within your newsletter, then you get it creates a tab, so that makes navigation on your thing. Right. So
yeah, I'm gonna have to
one for your story. I think I would create one for your story, because then it just creates a tab on your Substack where all of your chapters are, instead of people having to scroll through everything else to get to your chapters.
Okay. Yeah, so I think that's on my agenda to experiment with this week, is the newsletter within a newsletter. I don't know, that's new, I think, or newish to Substack, and I don't know how it works.
Yeah.
But I know that Substack itself suggests sending or like waiting until you have some followers before you monetize. So there's that. So like this week I'm going to add I will publicize all of our Substacks this week, because I'm going to send out our first episode of the serial killers, and I'll link to all of us. I'll put it in the email. So, like, here's all of the serial killers, and here are our Substack links, and then we'll have it in the show notes for the episode, and we'll do that every week. But I'm not publishing the first episode of the Undergrounders. That was a weird face, Adrian.
There was like a crash or something outside my house. Sorry.
Oh, okay. I thought I lost my audio again. So that's I lost my train of thought again.
Did it crash?
Yeah, Adrian's crash. So anyway, I think that because I'm not publishing until February, I hopefully will be able to build up some viewers who will then be there to read the book when I start publishing it. So it'll be interesting, because I think Leah is going to publish this next coming up week. So it'll be interesting to see if it makes a difference, right? And Terry, you plan on publishing this coming up week too, right?
I plan on publishing this coming up week, but I've been having some things happening that's slowing me down. I might have to push it back for a week or two. I'm going to have to sit down and relook at my schedule and see if I'm being realistic.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that for sure. Ever. Okay, Zach, how are you doing? What are your plans for your Substack?
So this last week, I've been really confused as to whether I want to do a dedicated Substack just for the story or to do a larger one. I had one for poetry before that I closed down because it wasn't very active. And, I was just splitting my focus between Medium and trying to come up with stories and trying to do a poetry Instagram. And I felt like I had too much going out there in one place. So at first I thought this was just going to be a dedicated to the story Substack, but now I'm leaning towards kind of making it a wider, just me in general Substack with the story, and then kind of branching away from Medium a bit. I feel bad about leaving Medium there because I've made so much money for it and I'm just not lately. So feels weird to try something new and hope it works out as well as I was doing before.
Yeah, but I don't think you have to choose one or the other, because you can cross post.
My worry about that is, if I try to get the same people interested in all my things, they're going to get like 5 emails with the same content.
Well, but you can post older like new poems on Medium and then repost your older ones on Substack, because it's mostly going to be focused on your fiction.
That's true.
Or you can, what are you posting on Medium right now? Mostly your poetry?
Yeah, right now Medium is just poetry.
Okay. And so you could post your poetry first on Substack so that the people who are following you there, like your actual followers, are getting it first, and then publish it over to Medium like a week later.
Yeah, I like that. The thing I really like about doing poetry on Substack is that I can do voice recordings native into the Substack post.
Right. Yeah, you could do it like a podcast, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's cool. Okay, Lee Carter, are you ready?
Yeah.
We're going to get some of Lee's story today. I'm very, very excited. And last week, Terry read hers and then we edited it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do that again.
Okay, did it open for you guys?
Yes.
Okay. Happy birthday, Tag. Come on, we're going to be late. Tag's mother hurried him and his little sister out of the house and towards the brand new shiny e-car that his father was sitting in. Tag opened the door with a deep sense of dread and impending doom. His sister Laura shoved past him and plopped herself into a seat. He glared at her as he stooped and sat down next to her. She poked her tongue out and he swatted her a little harder than he normally would have. I still don't see why we had to come today. Why couldn't I at least enjoy my birthday before having to deal with this, he said. His mother hushed him. You should be grateful. We're lucky to be able to get you at all, let alone so soon. I didn't ask you to, he said. He knew he sounded childish, but he didn't care. That's enough, his father said, pressing a button on the dashboard. The car burst into life and began to move without his father having to do anything else. Tag sighed and folded his arms as he leant back on the seat and lapsed into silence as Laura began to chatter. It seemed to take only minutes before the car pulled into the more heavily built-up area of the city. Drones soared through the sky, sometimes barely missing planes and buildings, though Tag knew that, of course, there was practically zero chance of a collision because all of the navigation systems were controlled by the corporation's central control hub. Tag rolled his eyes. The corporation controlled practically everything, and they would soon be able to control him too. He had to struggle to suppress a shudder. He stared out of the window as single-story houses became huge skyscrapers that etched a path out of the early morning sky. A deep sadness shrouded him as he realized that this was the last time he would see them in his current state. After today, everything would change. He glanced over at Laura, who was now chattering about what she and Mylene were planning to do at the weekend. He had no such plans. If his friend's stories were true, he would probably be stuck in bed trying to sleep off what sounded like a killer hangover. Suddenly, a building that dwarfed all of the others reared up into the sky, the foreboding form of the corporation headquarters. This was where all the procedures were carried out. Tag gulped and tried to swallow the nauseous feeling down. His father stopped the car right outside the main entrance. You go ahead and take him in. I'll find somewhere to park. His mother glanced at him. Good idea. We don't want to be late and miss his appointment. Who knows when we'd be able to get another. Tag was about to say that he was there and that they could talk to him rather than about him, but caught himself. He was going to have to learn not to have those kinds of thoughts now. Instead, he undid his belt and got out of the car, followed by Laura. They joined their mother on the pavement, and Laura waved to their father. Tag turned and looked up at the monster of a building. He swallowed hard and took a deep breath. Come on, Taylor, there's no time to just stand around, Tag's mother said, using his real name that his friends hadn't used ever since his parents had attached the electronic monitoring device onto his ankle. Waterproof and without the need to charge, Tag didn't remember what it felt like to not have it on anymore. He took one last look up at the building and then followed his mother and sister inside.
Good. Can you guys see my screen share?
Yeah.
So are we gonna do last time?
Yeah.
Terry, we did feedback.
Yeah, we'll do feedback. I just wanted to make sure that I was screen sharing properly. But should I come back to you guys? Maybe I should. Okay. Okay, who has feedback for me?
I do.
Yay.
Hey, Lee, this is so cool. I feel so bad for this kid. I like that we can see that this is some kind of futuristic world. You don't have to tell us anything. Just your descriptions alone are explaining the fact that we're not in our world. We're somewhere else, be it a different universe altogether or some dystopian society or future society. It's interesting that you start with happy birthday and then his mood is just deteriorating the closer they get to this corporation. And my mood is deteriorating with him because the more that he talks or the more that he thinks, the more I'm like, oh my gosh, what is this thing that they're going to do to him? And an electronic monitoring device on his ankle. And oh boy, you can see right away that there are some big problems and issues that he's going to be having to deal with. And I can't wait to see what comes next. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. Who else has feedback? Zach, how about you?
I'm really excited for this. This is a really good start, and you set the stage for this world so well. And I don't have anything critical to say. I was just caught up in this, and I'm really curious on how this will go.
Yeah, I agree. I'm very intrigued by this, and I think it's got a really good tone to it. I have a small thing and then just like an overall thought for you. And I wondered what an e-car looks like. Just at the beginning here, you mentioned an e-car, and I think that you could I don't know, you could add a little more into your settings and your like your world building here. Oops, in the beginning. Just in general, I wish I could visualize this world a little more so that I could feel like, is this our world in the future? Is this a different world? Is it, I wish that I could get a better visual of that. And then I also kind of found myself wondering, like, wishing this was in first person, and I'm not sure why. I'm wondering if and maybe Shaunta has some insight on whether or not this would be better in first person or third person, but I kept feeling like I would connect with your main character a little more if it was in first person. That is also just like, could just be me and just a suggestion too. So just a thought there that just kept coming to me as I was reading over this again, was that I wonder what it would be like if it was in first person. That's all that I have though. I think it's a really intriguing and interesting, and I'm excited to hear more.
Hi Lee, I'm very excited to get this story, and I have had some of your I've read lots of your stories in the past, and I think that I'm excited to read something from you that, even though it's kind of dark, like dystopian, my guess is going to be dystopian. YA is one of my favorite kind of genres, and I think it's exciting to me that you're writing something that's a little different than the real contemporary YA that you have been writing lately. I think it's going to be good for you as a writer to do that, because sometimes the contemporary YA that you write is very, very dark. And and I think that even though this is dystopian, it's going to be a little bit lighter than like real life. Is it, you think? Yeah. So I'm excited for that. I took me a minute to realize that Happy Birthday and Tag were like the title and or the maybe the chapter title. And
yeah,
then
Happy Birthday is the scene title, and then tag is telling you which character
and so I was like,
is the focus.
Tag, I don't know if it's a game in Wales, is it a game? Yeah. So it took me a minute to realize that Tag was a person, but I think that's just because like you have Tag's mother, and I think that if you had like even just an extra space in between there, it would be it would be real obvious it was not a game. But that was like a little not really important piece of advice. I think overall I thought this was a lot of fun and very interesting, and it I would definitely want to keep reading to find out. I thought you did a great job with the setting. I'm going to edit this for you, so I'll have more feedback then. I don't want to repeat myself. So should we just dive into the feedback, or do you have questions first?
No, my only sort of thing that I would be really interested to know is obviously Adrian's comment about it being in first person. And I deliberately not done it as such because I've got these 5 characters, so I sort of jump around between those characters depending on the scene, which is why I hadn't done it in first person.
Well, I don't think that you need this to be in first person to connect tighter with Tag, and I have ideas for that.
Okay.
So I'm gonna. Am I screen sharing again? I don't think I am. Okay. And then I just need to make this into suggesting. All right, now you can see it, my screen?
Yeah.
I would definitely just put a space there.
Yeah, I've been writing it in Atticus, and on that, the formatting obviously is a lot different.
Right. Who says, come on, we're going to be late?
His mother.
Okay, so a problem that you have here in this first paragraph is that you have about 3 different perspectives. Sorry. Tag, his mother, and his sister. So it's too thick, like too big. So I would just do a paragraph break there. So that's Tag's mother. Come on, we're going to be late. Tag's mother hurried him and his little sister out of the house and towards the brand new shiny e-car that his father was sitting in. So this is some telling. And I think, so the word is like a good indication that you're telling, and usually dialogue is a good indication that you're in scene. And so you're definitely in a scene here, but in your narrative, you're doing some telling that, like, since it's happening right this second, there's no reason to have it be like telling us that his mom hurried him. You could say, you know, okay, so Tag's mother hurried him and his little sister out of the house so you don't need the word and. You have, you could put, I always like to talk about having like a personalized style guide. So just sometimes there's stuff that you know about yourself as a writer that you tend to do. And if you just put it in your own little style guide, it makes editing a lot easier. In your style guide, you should put something that I also have in mind, which is an overuse of conjunctions. Zach, that's a conjunction, right? Like and, as,
Yes.
but. Yeah. So an overuse of conjunctions. I have to do this also, but you have like the word and here that you don't need, right? Tag's mother hurried him and his little sister out of the house towards the so you can make this a little less wordy if you just say the shiny new e-car. And you could, let's see if we can make it a little tighter by putting the father here towards their father, maybe who sat in the shiny in there. Would he think of the car as his dad's or the family's?
He kind of sees it as his parents because he's not in. The idea is that with the world, the corporation provides all the tech, so they have complete control. So he doesn't really want anything to do with that. Okay. So he would see it more as his father's.
Okay, so Tag's mother hurried him and his little sister out of the house towards their father, who sat in a shiny new e-car. Ooh, why is that caps lock? Okay. And I think what I would do is take this dialogue and move it down. So, because this Tag's mother actually belongs to Tag's mother, like that. So Tag's mother hurried him and his little sister out of the house towards their father, who sat in a shiny new e-car. Come on, we're going to be late. Tag opened the door with a deep sense of dread and impending doom. Okay, so here you're just telling us what he's feeling. And I'm pretty sure that with the rest of the scene, you do a good job of showing us this impending doom. So I'm going to cut that. And in fact, I don't think you need that he opened the door either. Oh no, you could keep it though. Like you could just say, Tag opened the door and his sister, Laura, shoved past him. What you have a habit of doing, Lee, is instead of starting a new sentence, you use a conjunction and just keep going.
Yeah.
And that's okay sometimes, but sometimes, it's better to have a new, Tag opened the door. So you had like this sentence would be Tag opened the door and his sister. Oh, I know. Let's say, I'm not sure which door because it kind of feels like it could be the front door, but I think it's the passenger door, right? Or the backseat door.
Backseat door.
Backseat door. Period. His sister, maybe his sister Laura shoved past him. And then I think I would use and plopped herself into a seat. He glared at her as he stooped and sat down next to her. So this is giving me a hard time picturing the car because I'm imagining like a 4-door car, like a sedan. Mm-hmm. And so she would have to scooch down. So I wonder if he like scooch over and glared at her until she scooted over.
Yeah.
So he could, get in the car too or whatever. And so that's him. And then this is kind of her. She poked out her tongue and he swatted her a little harder than he normally would have. So you could just say a little harder than. I personally would say than he meant to, or because otherwise you're telling us like in the first paragraph that he routinely hits his sister. I don't know if that's where we want to go.
No, what I was going for there is once he's been chipped, the chip modifies behavior. So if he does anything, sort of any behavior that is contrary to what is expected, then he's punished. So,
Okay, so
that was me trying to show that he was sort of doing that whilst he still could.
So how, okay, so since we don't know any of that information yet, that's not clear. So
right.
He's on his way to be chipped. He's not chipped yet. Yes
Yeah.
or no? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So maybe just a little harder than he meant to or something. And then this is
Tag speaking.
Right. I want a little like a response from one of his parents, maybe, or Laura. It might even just be like Tag, or whatever from his mom, right?
Yeah.
Or his dad. Which one of them do you think would? Or
possibly
like,
his
I know what
father,
I would do
but
is
they
I
would say
hands to yourself. His father said, let's say something like that, right? But whatever his dad would actually say, and then like give him a beat here so we know who's speaking. So how does he flop back in his seat, whatever. I still don't say what we had to come today. Why couldn't I at least enjoy my birthday before I have to deal with this? I think you could probably combine this and say I still don't see why I couldn't at least enjoy my birthday before having to deal with this. His mother hushed him. So remember, this is going to be a period, not a comma before the dialogue, unless it's a dialogue tag.
Yeah.
His mother hushed him. You should be grateful. We were lucky to be able to get you an appointment at all, let alone so soon. So here you're going to have a comma. I didn't ask you to. Oh, except that I would actually leave that a period, and you don't need a tag. You almost never need a tag and a beat in the same sentence, paragraph. Yeah. So I didn't ask you to. And then you have another thing you can put on your style guide is these thought verbs, right? He knew is a thought verb, and also which like shifts us back into telling.
Yeah.
You don't need it. If he's telling us that he sounded childish, then we know he knows he sounded childish. So you don't need to tell us that he knows, right?
Yeah.
Because from his point of view, pretty deep here. So I didn't ask you to. He sounded childish, but he didn't care. That's enough. Okay, another comma here. So remember, after dialogue, before a beat, you're going to do comma, except again, I just think you would be better off getting rid of the, you don't need the tag. And I think I would move this here. His father pressed a button on the dashboard. That's enough. Oh, no. I'm going to disagree with myself and put it after because of the next paragraph. That's enough. His father pressed a button on the dashboard. The car burst into life. I think that the car burst into life is a really good sentence. Like it's an exciting, like I felt that like burst. And so I would let it just be its own sentence and then say it began to move. So in general, I don't like began or started. Like I kind of try to.
It could just be it moved.
yeah, I try to like channel Yoda, right? Like you don't need to begin or start, you just do it. And then if you're doing it, then we know that you started to do it, or the character, right? Or began.
Yeah.
So it moved without his father. Instead of having to do, I would just say doing anything else. Without his father doing anything else. My question is, in this world, are all cars e-cars? Like
Mostly.
So
there are a few cars that are sort of like our cars now, but generally speaking, most people have e-cars.
So in that case, I know that what you're wanting is to let the reader know how the car moves. And instead of telling us that it moved without his father doing anything else, which is not an observation that he would probably have any more than my kid might have, it moved when his mother put her foot on the gas pedal. Like, it's just how cars operate in this world. So it moved, like, how does it move? Does it glide? Like, does it glide into traffic? I'm going to just leave you a note here. I think
what I was trying to go for was, like, his father doesn't have, there's no steering wheel, his father doesn't have to steer.
Right, but because I got that, but because in this world all cars are like that, that's not necessarily a thought that Tag would have.
Gotcha.
So, and it makes it sound like he's kind of in awe, like, oh, and wow, look at that. Like how you might feel if you got into your e-car that didn't need a steering wheel for the first time. So here you need a more descriptive sentence about how the car moves, right? And one thing you could do is have Dad, like, his father pressed a button on the dashboard and then turned all the way around in his seat to look at him, right?
And
then
I like that.
And so now we know he's not looking, right? He could say, that's enough. I would probably use his name tag. The car burst into life, and then you probably do need to put a little more here. And like, glided into traffic when there was a break, or just even glided into traffic.
Yeah.
And so if you show us that his dad is not father looked at Tag and until he nodded or something like that. Or until, whatever, like something that shows, I'm not going to write that for you, but something that shows the father is definitely not driving this car, right?
Yeah.
So maybe have Dad all the way turned around, maintaining eye contact with Tag as the car is driving until Tag finally says, sorry, Laura, whatever, right?
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So I'll just leave a note. Show Dad not driving until Tag maybe says sorry to Laura.
Yeah.
Tag sighed and folded his arms as he leaned back on the seat. He's already silent. So another word I've noticed you have a lot here is the word as. So that could go on your list.
Yeah.
You do as or and or whatever, I've noticed in this scene, instead of a period. So you might look and see, like, where you have the word and or as, would it be better or stronger if you had a period?
Yeah.
Not always. You don't want to have like a gazillion really short period or sentences, but you have a tendency to add on to a sentence instead of starting a new one with the word as or and. So Tag sighed and folded his arms. He leaned back on his seat. I want to know
would
what
it
Laura
be leaned or leant?
Well, it depends. American English would definitely be leans. We don't use a T, so I don't know if in Wales it would be lent.
I'll have to look that one up. It's for some reason it's now looking wrong to me.
As I know you guys do like learnt and whatever, like I don't know, other words
Yeah.
where you use the T instead of ed, and that's not, I would, American English doesn't, I don't think has that at all. Do they, Zach? I don't think so. I can't think of an instance where I use a T instead of ed.
You know, it's like you
I
get
tend
that
to
moment.
sometimes, but I'm kind of weird
But
like that.
Doing that on purpose because you want to use a British spelling,
Yeah.
right? It's not an American, there's not an American spelling with it. I mean, it stands out to me as British, so.
That's fine. You know how sometimes you look at a word and even though you know it's spelt right, your brain's saying that's wrong.
Yeah. I know that if like this was Zach's and he had that in there, I would probably tell him to change it to ed because he's writing an American book for an American audience, but you are writing a Welsh book, and even with an American, it's gonna have an American audience. It's okay, I think, to have British spelling. Just be consistent.
Yeah.
I noticed, I realized you did with an S, and in American English would have a Z, which I will also keep, because you're just using British spelling, which is totally fine because you're British. But I want to know what does Laura say? Like, I'd write this dialogue,
Yeah.
at least a little, right?
Yeah.
So you could have, and rather than, like, you could have where dad, Tag finally says, sorry, Laura. And then Laura starts chattering and he's like, oh, great. Like what, some inner monologue, right, from him. So where he would be like, great, now he apologized and now she's never going to shut up.
Yeah.
And so rather than telling us that she's began again to chatter, you could show her starting to chatter, and then and like kind of like a little chihuahua or something, I don't know how old either are, and this could be a way for you to start to show us their age difference. Like, is she much littler than
Tag's 15 and she is 8, 9-ish.
Yeah, so she's young enough to be like annoying to him.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is right, because I don't want it to come across as like he hates her, because he doesn't. It's just that she's an annoying little sister.
Right. Well, and he's having a bad day.
Yeah.
So she, it's okay. It didn't really hurt. What, I don't know where they're going, but this could also be, where she just keeps going on and on. What do you think it's going to be like? I think it's going to be blah, blah, blah. Are you excited? I'm excited. Like, and so where she's asking questions and not giving him a chance to answer.
Yeah.
And, and then maybe he, would he wish he could take the apology back? Something like that. And then feel bad about that, maybe, which would show that he doesn't hate his little sister. He's just annoyed.
Yeah.
Having a bad day. It seemed to take only minutes before. So did it take longer than minutes?
Yeah, it takes a good sort of half hour, I think.
So I wonder if you could just say too soon. The car pulled into the more heavily built up. Oh, I would use, so built would have a T in American English. Heavily, but I do think it's going to get a hyphen. Into the more heavily built up area of the city. Which city is it? Like London, or I don't know what's in Wales.
I didn't really specify, but I could easily add in London or Cardiff.
So instead of the car pulling up, I think you could say, father pulled the car. Oh no, the car, never mind. I forgot, the car is not being driven by father. I think pulled itself. Otherwise it reads passive.
Yeah.
Too soon, the car pulled itself into a more heavily built up area of, what did you say? What city?
If you say Cardiff,
Oh, I don't know. That's Wales, right? Like a big city in
Yeah.
Wales.
yeah, it's the capital of Wales.
I mean, is that where you're imagining this set?
I don't know that I had it, although it's supposed to be this world, I hadn't specifically set it, but if I do that, then I can pull from stuff in real life, so that would actually help me to ground in the world.
Well, I'll put Cardiff here, and then that's right, Cardiff.
Yeah,
And then you can decide whether to keep it or not.
yeah.
I think if you don't name a city or something, and the reader who's not from Wales is not going to know this is Wales. And maybe not even someone who is from Wales. So if you want to make it, like you can, maybe just describe it a little. Like, what does a heavily built up area of Cardiff look like? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Drones soared through the sky, sometimes barely missing planes and buildings. You don't need through the sky because that's where drones soar, and also that's where planes and buildings are. So drones soared, sometimes barely missing planes and buildings. Though Tag knew that, of course, there was practically zero chance of, okay, I'm gonna put period for you. You've got, I don't think you need any of this. Because if he's telling us there was practically zero chance of a collision, then we know that he knows, right? So you don't need to tell us. And then there was practically zero chance of a collision. All of the navigation systems were controlled by the corporation's central control hub. Tag rolled his eyes. The corporation controlled practically everything, and they would soon, I would be able to, they would soon control him too.
Yeah.
I would either just cut
He's
this.
already suppressed a shudder at one point, I think, so I don't need that one.
I also don't think you need this eye roll. I think, and I wonder if you couldn't have, like, would Laura ask, are they going to crash? Something like that. And so instead of just telling us this, it becomes a conversation. She's maybe young enough to know. And here's where you might have an eye roll, right?
Yeah.
And then maybe
I
father,
think his mum would possibly explain that.
well, or maybe father, because that would give you another chance. Turn around in his seat again while the car,
Yeah.
well, here you can use as the car navigated the heavier traffic or whatever, so that we are getting another indication that this car is driving by itself. And then he can say this line here, which sounds a little bit more grown up anyway, like more formal. All of the navigation systems are controlled, I would say are controlled by the corporation's central control hub. They, maybe there's never a collision. And if that's not true, then Tag could think, well, not never, right? But not say it out loud, right? So he might even think himself, but he kept that to himself or whatever. So now, do you see how that gets the same information, but it's more of a
more immediate? Yeah.
the corporation controlled practically everything, and they would soon control him too. Yeah, I think that line is so strong. I would take off everything before, just let it be its own paragraph.
Yeah.
In fact, I think will not never is good by, or something like that, like where he has a thought that's disagreeing with his father, but he keeps it to himself.
Yeah.
Because you have practically zero. So that means that there's some kind of a chance. And so that gets that practically in there.
Yeah.
He stared out of the window. I think I would say car window is a single story. So EY on story is also a British spelling, but I think as long as you're consistent, that's good. He said
Yeah.
of the car window as single story houses became huge skyscrapers. So they are already in the built up part of the city.
Yeah.
So I think you need to just say at huge skyscrapers that edged a path out of the early morning sky. Maybe through instead of out of, through the early morning sky.
Yeah.
So here we're telling his emotion again. And I don't think you need it. I think there's some melancholy in the way he's thinking about the sky and everything. And you can just say this was the last time he would see them.
I didn't really like
current
state, but
No,
I didn't
I
know
was
what
thinking,
to.
if you think of can you come up with a term, or is there a term for people who are chipped, like say altered? So you could say this was the last time he would see them unaltered.
Oh, I like unaltered.
Or before he was altered, because otherwise it kind of reads like the
Yeah. Let's
after-
use modified.
Modified. There you go. After today, everything would change. So here you're telling us what she's chattering about again. So I would show.
I need the dialogue.
So I would write Laura's chatter again here. And then, so instead of this sentence, I would write her dialogue, and then he can have the thought. He had no such plans. If his friends, apostrophe stories were true, he would probably be stuck in bed trying to sleep off what sounded like a killer hangover. Okay. Suddenly a building that dwarfed all of the others reared up into the sky. So that sounds like it's coming up out of the ground, like it wasn't there and then it is.
Yeah, that's not. When I read it back earlier, I kind of thought it didn't sound right.
It's because it sounds like it's like popping up out of the concrete. So
I'm wondering if I don't actually need that.
One building dwarfed
all
the others. The foreboding form of the corporation headquarters. This was where I think you can just say the forbidding corporation headquarters, foreboding corporation headquarters. This was where all the procedures were carried out. I think stick with modifications, huh?
Yeah.
And I think you can say happened instead of carried out. This is
less
where all
passive
happened. Tag gulped and tried to. Okay, so I would just say I tried to swallow down the nauseous feeling. And I think though I don't like the word feeling, so I wonder if you could just say try to swallow his nausea.
Yeah.
His father stopped the car outside the main entrance. Period there. Oh, but he doesn't stop the car, right?
He presses a button.
Oh, okay.
I don't have to have him do that. Maybe I could add something earlier on about the navigation. I think you need to,
the car parked. His father pressed the button to kill the engine or whatever. What would you say? Like an American way to say that would be to kill the engine, or is that a word?
I think to kill the engine is fine.
Is that something that would be said in Wales?
Probably, yeah.
The car part.
Yeah, it would be.
I think I still want to see. I think eventually you can just start talking about the car like it's kind of prescient. Is that the right word? Like sentient?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
until then,
See, I'm wondering. I know we need a tag for the dad with the "you go ahead and take him in. I'll find somewhere to park." But I'm wondering if we just cut him
I think
pressing the
you
button.
can say his father pressed the button to kill the engine. Yeah, I think if you do this, you know, he said to mother, I'll find somewhere to park. His mother glanced at him. Okay, or you can just say, his father said, I'll find somewhere to park. Oh, it's already parked. Okay. He's not going to push the button. You need to cut this whole thing. If the car isn't stopped, he's not going to also turn the car off. So you do need to have something like the car came to a stop, idled or whatever. You go ahead and take him in. So you have his mother and his father all the time, and I don't know if you want to do that or you just want to say father said. Like, what? How would he think about them? What words? Dad, father?
Probably mom and dad.
Yeah. So I would probably go ahead and like establish that. Mom glanced at him. Maybe over her shoulder, because otherwise it reads like she's glancing at dad, and I think she's glancing at Tag, right?
Yeah.
And that's going to get a period. Good idea. We don't want, I think she would say, good idea. Mom glanced at Tag over her shoulder and say this: we don't want to be late and miss the appointment. I would use a period, like no need for funny punctuation there. Who knows when we'd be able to get another. Tag was about to say, so I think you could say, like, skip all this and just say he was there. He was, right there. They could talk to him rather than about him. And then, no point in saying so though, right? Or something like that. So like he decides there's no point in saying so instead of telling us, right? So then it becomes an internal monologue. He was, I'm just writing it like a filler. You can write it in his voice or your own, but instead of saying he was about to, you're telling us this, and this becomes more like internal monologue. He was going to have to learn not to have these kinds of thoughts now. What kind? Negative thoughts?
Yeah.
So I would, instead of those kinds, I would name the kind of thought. Like, I don't know if it's negative or what kind of thoughts will
if we just use unacceptable thoughts.
Okay. That's good. Unacceptable thoughts now. Instead, he undid his belt and got out of the car. I don't think you need the word instead. He undid his belt and got out of the car. Laura followed. They joined their mother on the pavement, and Laura waved to their father. So that's like a lot of.
It is.
I don't.
We know the mother's getting out, so we don't actually need them joining her on the pavement.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Laura followed. You might say though, does she stay close to him? Does she go to their mother? Like, it kind of would be cool if she, if she stayed close to him, and that would maybe do, because you want to show that they are close. He's just having a bad. So you could even have him take her take his hand or something like that.
Yeah. I like that.
Tag looked up at the monster of a building. He swallowed hard and took a deep breath. Come on, Tyler. There's no time to just stand around. I would just say, come on, Taylor. I mean, not Tyler. Come on, Taylor. Just because I like this stuff about, I like this stuff about his name, and I don't want it to get lost with the dialogues. I think you don't need to use said. You can just say Tag's mother used his real name.
And then new sentence with just his friends.
Yeah. So he has a monitoring device, and this is different from what he's about to go get like a permanent device or something.
Yeah, the idea is that his parents are quite controlling. So because kids aren't chipped until they're 15, they put a tag on him so that they could monitor him.
Okay. So
when his friends found out, they gave him the nickname Tag.
Oh, so I think I would do another paragraph. So this is his mom, and that's her beat. His friends I think I would actually say called him Taylor, since his parents had, I don't think you need since his parents attached an electronic monitoring device to his ankle when he was how old?
7.
Waterproof and without the need to charge. Okay, so I don't think this information feels very out of the blue and like not connected to anything. I don't think, I think that what's important is Tag didn't remember what it felt like not to have it on anymore.
Yeah.
Is he gonna have it removed now?
Yeah, he will do, because once he's got the tag, once he's got the chip, then they don't need that.
So you might have, he's gonna find, he'd find out soon. He took one last step at the building and then followed his mother and sister inside.
He wouldn't be following Laura inside now, would he? Can you just sort of highlight that for me? Because if she's holding his hand.
Okay. Yeah. So one thing that was interesting to me is that it felt like up here you talked about if his friend's stories were true, and it's not clear enough without somebody able to talk to you that the ankle monitor is not what he's having done, or like I was like, it seems like this is something that's for everyone, and then it seems like it's just him because he gets called Tag. But if everyone has a tag, like I think that I don't know necessarily that it's confusing enough to need to, but like just know for in the next, like when you're talking in the next part about the monitor that or whatever it is that he's having in, like I want to see him getting the ankle monitor taken off and maybe a doctor talking to him about what's happening, and you know what I mean? And maybe even asking, like, if it's unusual, like he would have to have had it removed because you grow quite a lot between 7 and 15.
Yeah.
So he would have had to have it like replaced every year or so, unless it was loose or like somehow magically grew with him. Not magically, but I mean like.
I know what you mean. Yeah. I hadn't thought the logistics of that out, but I can add that in easily enough, because the ankle monitoring device wasn't something that the corporation did. That was something that his parents did.
And I want to know if Laura has one.
Yeah.
Or yeah, I want to know. Yeah, I want to know if Laura has one, or if she, maybe mom. I'm going to come back to you guys now. Maybe mom. Says she wants to keep it because she's just going to put it on Laura, who then you could make her 7.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah, so if the doctor says I'd like to keep this to study it or something, and then mom's like, nope, it's going on Laura next week.
Yeah.
And but like a conversation between, because it's hard because Tag already knows all of this stuff, right? So it's like no reason to be thinking about it, but the doctor doesn't. And so the doctor could have questions like, why, you know, this is not corporation, why does he have this? And she can just say, you know, so many kids are kidnapped these days or whatever.
Yeah.
So because I don't know, like and I'm okay with the questions, but I don't know, like, is he in trouble? Was he a troublemaker? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. No,
like,
I mean, his
why did
parents are just really controlling.
but this is your opportunity to show us that if mom in the next scene has a conversation with the doctor, or mom and dad,
Yeah.
and then the doctor could just have kind of a routine, you know, like if you go to a doctor here and you get like a vaccination, the doctor will just kind of explain like over and over to everybody. So what they're telling you is kind of like a rote speech about why the vaccine and what's it good for and what's it going to do, and here's how you might feel after, and whatever, like aspirin and ice, or you know, whatever. And and so it could be like that, so that we're getting the information. And then also if it feels like a rote speech and Tag notices that, then we know that it's happening a lot.
Yeah.
But excellent, I really enjoyed it. Did you have any questions about those edits?
No, not at all. I mean, my biggest thing at the moment, and it's kind of formatting, but it's kind of part of the story, is I've got there are certain locations in this, and when I've been writing, it's the corporation, the academy. There's another one called the sanctuary, which comes in a lot later. So I've been capitalizing the and the name of the place. Do you think that's okay as long as it's consistent?
Well, I think anything is okay as long as it's consistent, but I will say it looks off on the page.
Right. I'm not sort of
only do the corporation and not.
Yeah, I'm not massively attached to it. I just wanted to know one way or the other, so when I'm editing, I can make the adjustments, and then when I'm writing forward, I can write it in the correct way.
Yeah, does anybody else have thoughts on that? I personally think I would just the word corporation capitalized. What do you think, Adrian?
I don't know. I don't know that I have any, I don't know.
I think depending on if it's the name of, if it's the corporation, if that's the name of it, then the could be capitalized as well. And if it's not, if it's just corporation, then just the C should be capitalized.
Well, my guess is that it's actually got a name, right? And that it's just what people call it, right?
No, it's actually called the corporation because they're they don't want to have a name that anyone can call them. It's just there's a bit of mystery around it.
Then I think that the should be capitalized personally, because it's part of the name. That's what it is, the corporation.
Yeah, I agree.
And if it's the same thing for the academy and the sanctuary, you know, if that's the name, if there's no actual name of it, then, and that's its name, then that it should be capitalized.
I agree.
Okay. All right, cool. Thank you.
Okay, guys, I think we're done for this week. Thank you everyone for hanging out with us. I hope that you all found Lee's edit helpful. I think next week we have Zach in the hot seat, right?
Yay, Zach.
Yay, Zach.
Yay.
I'm looking forward to that.
Hey.
Are you looking forward to that, Zach Kane?
I am.
Okay. Okay, everybody, have a great week, and we will see you next Sunday.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.